Hi, everyone, and welcome to Heal Endometriosis Naturally with Wendy K. Laidlaw. Wendy has spent the last 2 years helping women with various stages of endometriosis to heal naturally after putting her condition into remission. After her own healing success from stage 4 endometriosis and adenomyosis, she's inspired to heal others, and her goal is to help some of the 175 million women know that there is another way other than painkillers, drugs, or surgery. This is the place to be for real talk with real people for real results, so you can learn how to heal your endometriosis naturally. Please note that the opinions expressed in this program may represent options, but are not a substitute for proper medical care. Before starting any new healthcare program, we recommend you consult with a health professional.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. It's Wendy K. Laidlaw here from Heal Endometriosis Naturally. As always, I hope that this podcast and video finds you well. So this week's podcast is titled Believing Mirrors. Believing mirrors, I hear you ask, what on earth is that? Well, all will be revealed. I start by sharing, well, what an emotional weekend I've had. Invigorating and stretching and inspiring, all coming to a head at the end of a 4-day business conference. You see, emotions and me haven't always been the best of friends. Those pesky emotions were something I used to have great struggles with for as long as I can remember. And I could feel them rise up with the force of a fiery volcano and then frighten me to death as I tried to wrestle and struggle to control them and keep them at bay. I was only ever comfortable with the one emotion that society says is acceptable, called happy. But equally, I was quite familiar with the emotions called sadness and depression for most of my life. Yet this weekend, however, I was away at this conference in Nashville, USA. I noticed the increased surfacing and rising of the biggest uncomfortable emotions of all: insecurity, inadequacy, and big fat fear. I felt like an antisocial human and a little bit like a recluse for the first few days of the event. But then slowly, I started to immerse myself into the energy and company of these 5,000 amazing entrepreneurs. I've always been particularly sensitive to others' energy, good or bad, so the packed and crowded event did impact me. Invariably, these events leave me drained and exhausted of energy if I don't actually keep the balance right for myself. Although there has been a learning over the years, especially when healing my endometriosis and adenomyosis naturally, to employ a supportive bag of tools, which incorporates the act of journaling, meditation, relaxation, and power shakes, which help support me emotionally, physically, and spiritually in life. However, it still takes some practice to implement those tools when I'm feeling those strong emotional feelings from deep within myself and that of others around me. So at this huge event, I found myself standing at the back of the conference room, all the while the legend that is the inspirational guru and speaker, Tony Robbins, was encouraging all of these energized bodies in the room to jump up and down and express their feelings of joy and with dance. But I stayed as close as I could to the exit doors at the back of the room, almost kind of like 1 foot in and 1 foot out. It felt the safest place for me at that time. I'd seen Tony Robbins before and I'd read all his books, listened to every tape and CD and every recording of his. He's a hugely inspirational being, having overcome his own childhood issues, abuse, poverty, and obesity. I knew I was in the best hands around these progressive and dynamic people. And Tony Robbins awakes something deep inside me each and every time I hear him talk or read his books. He just seems to know that fear part of me well. After the breakdown of my last marriage and my journey back after endometriosis, I knew I needed a kind of mental detox to clear the clutter and toxic messages and projections left behind in the wake of the separation. I recognized that the beliefs I'd taken in, on and up within my body, my brain, weren't very encouraging or particularly positive much of the time, way back then. I didn't know how to visualize. That's what struck me. Children know how to visualize easily. They have amazing imaginations. I stood there hearing Tony Robbins say, don't live in fear. Visualize your dreams in your mind and imagine living them now. We all know logically how having positive beliefs about ourselves propels us forward and lifts us up. But if you've grown up in a highly critical family environment, with highly toxic people, then you know that these voices of harsh negativity and perfectionism take up residence in your head instead of the white, fluffy fairy tale imaginings. A few days earlier, when I'd arrived in Nashville, I was struck when I saw Oprah Winfrey's billboard at the airport stating how education is king, which of course it is. I was struck how, despite her own upbringing, and when you analyze her history, by all accounts and purposes, with the sexual assaults, the rape, abuse, and all the suffering she endured, you could have justified that her feelings and beliefs about herself would be of an extremely negative nature, and for good reason. Yet one person, her English teacher, believed in her. In spite of everything that she'd been through, she had what I would call now one believing mirror. I was curious how Tony Robbins and Oprah Winfrey could escape the mental misery and negative narratives and transform their lives so magnificently. I was so struck because despite my own upbringing, marred in misery, judgment, and dysfunction, I've always been guided towards the dynamic and positive people like Tony Robbins and devoured all of his content, which resonated with me so much. I've also been so lucky in that all the positive projection I put into my children has come back to me tenfold from them. When I fell pregnant for the first time, I was fascinated about what makes a human the way they are. What makes a happy human? I started to read everything and anything I could get my hands on about the development of a happy human and a progressive and positive person. I knew instinctively if I did not make a conscious effort to change my subconscious wiring, then I might end up like my mother, subconsciously, and I could not do that to my children. So understanding the psychology and the influences and mental impacts was very important to me to immerse myself into. Hence my continued study in counseling, psychotherapy, and psychology, which is ongoing. I'm so honored because my children are my greatest fans and supporters of the endometriosis work I do, because they have seen me at various stages of the journey. And they've also become such wonderful believing mirrors in who I am and what I do. A journey that was tough, but worth every step, for I would not be who I am now. I talk to my clients about they have been in battle with their body, but now won the war and learned how to live in harmony, hear and befriend their body in a whole new way. Hence why I've recently created a beautiful brass Endoboss alumni medal to send out in presentation boxes to the successful students who have managed to put their condition into remission through the Endoboss Academy, Foundation and Advanced programs. It's been such a joy to create these things and also to see their faces when they receive them. So my children have been on the journey with me and witnessed who I've become. And I have such admiration and marvel at my children's own sense of strength and identity that I never had growing up. This core strength and belief in themselves because I am their biggest fan, their protector, and of course, their believing mirror. Equally, I'm lucky because I have two amazing business coaches as well that believe in me, called Christian and Vince. Both have supported me as my believing mirrors for the past few years. Both were there cheering me on when I might have had a wobble or a waver, with shaking legs and feathers sprouting out of my Levi's, when I published my first book or my first online event or my first webinar or program or website. I feel so very lucky to have coaches that believe in me, for they help me to continually step up, step out and forward to help other women break free from their suffering and negative beliefs. It's hard to put into words the abject fear that consumed me growing up. For I always felt too sensitive, a common statement thrown around, as well as alone and different. I'd always adopted the mentality, though, of feeling the fear and doing it anyway. But this stepping up and out to help women with endometriosis, I knew I couldn't do alone. And the difference is I didn't actually want to do it alone. I'm able to seek out safe and supportive people who are aligned with my values and purpose, which makes the journey more collaborative. 4 years ago, I had no internet experience or knowledge of how things worked online. I had to have the support externally, but the difference is that these business coaches are both big-hearted and wonderfully safe people, or hearts on legs, I call them. For years, I did the best I could alone in my life. it kind of felt safer that way. Yet, we humans are social beings. We are not designed to be separated from the pack. If you go back to caveman times, to be separated from the pack meant almost impending death. But what if the pack you up in was not safe? In fact, what if the pack was not just unsafe, but downright dangerous and threatening to you? Unless you've grown up in that environment, how could anybody understand? All the positive self-help books in the world couldn't shove that black genie back down into the bottle. The ugliness and confusion and shock of supposedly safe people actively setting out to try and harm you goes against all that society and religion preaches and projects about the perfect family image. And wow, don't dysfunctional families know how to shame you into silence and make you feel guilty for just breathing the same air that they do. And it's all about control. It also reflects generations and an ancestral line of repeated suppressive, negative, toxic behavior. I believe women with endometriosis are the ones that are breaking those ancestral patterns once and for all. They're the ones asking why. They're the ones that are saying the secrets can't be kept behind closed doors anymore. You know that the walking on eggshells is for a reason, so as not to wake up the grizzly bear or rage in the high-grade narcissistic person dominating and powering over the family. Equally, the sexism and ageism that is prevalent and projected in and around the world makes women nervous to speak up and out. We are all conditioned from a young age, from birth, to be a good girl. So it's wonderful to see increasing movements like the Me Too movement. It helps women recognize that it's okay to have their voice. It's not just okay, it's essential and important. I'd had several situations in my previous work environments that male bosses made it incredibly difficult for me to progress, came on with strong advancements, yet I had to leave and seek a new workplace to progress without the threat, sexual or otherwise. So being open to new people is tough for me and for many women with endometriosis. Experience has taught us to stay small, stay quiet, and be a good girl. And stay in the shadows of life. But not anymore for me. And what really struck me was this repeated mantra in my head as I left the conference, which was, it doesn't serve you to play small anymore. And I say that to you as well. It does not serve you to play small. But I love the story of the two mice that I heard recently. There were two little mice. Both fell into a bucket of cream. The first mouse quickly gave up and drowned, but the second mouse just wouldn't quit. She struggled so hard and persevered that eventually she turned that cream into butter and stepped out over the edge of the bucket, licked off the butter and celebrated her success. And as of this moment, I am that second mouse. And only because something deep inside of me said there had to be another way. And if you feel that within yourself, then you need to listen, because you're not going to quit. It's been 12 months since I was at the last event in Nashville in America, and this year I can feel the big shifts and changes in me even more. I want to liken it to the speed of a Japanese bullet train, but I think it's even faster, more like the super warp Star Wars speed. And of course, with my personal and emotional growth comes all these emotions rising more vividly and consciously. Yet I am more parenting to my emotions, much more accepting and less dismissive and judgmental. My dear coach Vince saw me standing at the back of the hall in Nashville and asked if I wanted a bottle of water. We left the conference hall and started to walk towards a local shop. I had walked no more than a few feet and I burst into tears, the tears strolling down my face. Vince looked at me a little surprised and asked, "What's wrong?" You see, Tony Robbins had just been talking about visualizing your future and not being focused on fear. But focusing on protecting yourself from fear seemed to be my inbuilt default mechanism. So I had become to realize in that moment. I felt overwhelmed and scared and inadequate. How could I rewire and fully visualize my dreams with confidence? Over 50 years, I had built up a series of defense mechanisms and protective strategies to save myself from those family members that society says are supposed to be safe. Yet they had actively sought me out to harm me over the years, something that I still struggle to comprehend. So my emotions rose up and came pouring out to Vince. I knew I needed to focus more on the future visions, more of what I want and not of what I don't want. I need to focus more on the visualization of the life I will have and the person I wish to become, and not the old, well-worn fears, insecurities, and inadequacies. I'd been feeling a rising resistance before going to Nashville, which I have come to recognize is always a good sign and an indication of another level of growth about to happen and change coming for me. What was I doing here in Nashville, I asked myself repeatedly, as I felt such fear entering the venue. Yet I know deep down in my soul that I have to keep stretching myself and moving forward, stepping out over the ravine, and the bridge will appear underfoot. All will become clear. Like a river flowing towards the open sea, I have to keep moving along and keep my heart open and focused on my true purpose and meaning, which is helping women with endometriosis become free of pain and help those beautiful souls soar. To resist growth means staying stagnant, like creating a dam on the river of life. And it creates more exhaustion. You might think it keeps the water safe, but slowly and surely that water will become stale, stagnant, contaminated, and moldy. And that river of life, unfortunately, brings uncertainty. You ask, will it twist around the bends or drop down the waterfalls, over the boulders or over the stones? It's scary because growing up, I tried to control my environment as a child does, I realize now, to keep the peace, to try to create a feeling of stability and security around me. I tried to make life as predictable, as safe, as perfect as possible. But as an adult, those ways of being are overwhelming and exhausting. I ended up making my life smaller and smaller, building many dams, while the safety I sought became a stifling suffocation and a struggling environment to get through each day. Like walking through treacle, it was exhausting. That was when my endometriosis and adenomyosis would strike my body at its hardest, and my life would change forever. So Tony Robbins' words struck a chord with my soul. I had temporarily slipped back into living in fear, and I had not realized. I was not focusing forward and not working on my visualization. I've journaled every morning for years, and the paper I realized was more patient than the people, but I'd also stopped focusing on the future. The ink would mark the paper with the worries, anxieties, and fears, leaving me free to hear my heart's soul desires and dreams. And I needed to focus on that more. I've been learning to become more compassionate with my fearful part, but equally I knew I needed to keep growing and spreading my wings more. But spreading my wings around safe people. And that's the key. I'm lucky because I have two amazing business coaches, and they are what I call hearts on legs, my believing mirrors, as I've mentioned. They care. They truly believe in me. They are supportive of my life's mission, my purpose to help women with endometriosis become endobosses. They have been able to handle my tears and my fears even when I couldn't. So Vince bought me a large bar of chocolate and kindly repeated to me that he believed in me. What had also triggered me earlier in the day was that I had received 2 emails from women sharing their success and how they were pain-free, which is always a joy. But both had said in their email, I've been searching for you for such a long time. How come it was so hard to find you? And my perfectionist part took those statements to heart and as a criticism. All I could hear amongst my thoughts was, I'm not reaching enough women with endometriosis, I'm not doing it quickly enough, and I'm not doing enough. And this overwhelming responsibility and fear gripped me again in my chest. To have women share that they were close to ending their lives, had they not found you, leaves you bearing a big weight of responsibility. And the fear of trying to get the marketing right and the promotion right and share my success story as quickly and as effectively as possible is something I'm seeking experts' help in every day. For this is also working for so many other women around the globe. This is a real alternative to the barbaric medical machine that invariably causes untold side effects and greater suffering. The weight of responsibility to reach the hundreds of millions of women out there in the world sits on my shoulders every single day. Because I care. Because I am my students' believing mirror, no matter what. I believe my own journey was training me to help other women out of endometriosis pain for good. It was not all in vain. This is something I am absolutely certain of. This is my mission and my purpose. But what comes with that purpose and mission is this dreaded fear of not being good enough to get the job done properly. Before publishing my first paperback book and creating the online programs, I was a complete novice about the way the world of the internet marketing worked. It was truly daunting and terrifying. Yet I have leaped forward and into this new online world as ferociously as I can to help as many women as I can, as quickly as I can. So in this leaping out of comfort zones, I've learned to become the observer of my emotions, even the strong ones. And days like yesterday are powerful in reminding me to parent myself, comfort myself, console myself, and just to notice those feelings and not judge them. To embrace the emotions, to embrace the energy, and to embrace the empathy I have for so many women with endometriosis. And when I do embrace all the emotions and feelings, they pass like fluffy clouds in the sky. I keep learning every day not to be the feelings or be the thoughts or be the negative beliefs, and to keep just noticing them. To keep being the observer helps the flow of these feelings and beliefs. So after my delicious chocolate bar and reassuring words from Vince, I went back to the conference hall and embraced the wonderful energetic atmosphere and vowed to be more open to learning and embracing all of my raw emotions. And of course, visualizations. Later, more beautiful believing mirrors would come up to me and hug me warmly, and I would feel their like of me, their love of me, and acceptance of me in ways I might have run from in the past or dismissed because I feared I was not liked. So I'm still learning to accept myself and to focus more on the positive visualizations more and more every day. This is my promise to myself. And of course, to respect the fact that slow is fast. These things don't happen overnight. We're all incredibly impatient with ourselves these days, and when I am kind and patient, the river of life in me flows effortlessly. It may not be an overnight quick fix, this practicing on focusing on my future visions, but I have resolved and promised to write and visualize my dreams every night before I go to sleep. Then my super susceptible subconscious will work away during the night in my dreams and work on who I need to become to achieve them. And I need to become more of my own believing mirror at my core. That's what I've realized. Whilst I believe in my skill set and empathy towards others, I need to continue to work on the empathy and compassion for the more vulnerable parts of myself, just as you do as well. This will be done safely through my journaling, meditation, walks in nature, artwork, and engaging with heart-centered, safe people, and to move away from toxic ones who vampirize my soul. This is an ongoing process. I watched this incredible video the other day about wildlife in Africa, showing this gazelle trying to cross a river to the other side. As the gazelle leapt with great gusto into the water, suddenly from nowhere, a large crocodile snapped its attention towards it and made this ferocious attempt to try and catch the gazelle between its jaws. I watched this poor innocent beast swim as fast as it could away from its predator. Then, when it looked like it could be swiftly eaten up and all might be lost, this hippopotamus came from nowhere, charging in between the gazelle and the crocodile, and used its body weight to bash the predator away. And then subsequently, this enabled the gazelle to swim to shore safely. We have to be our own happy hippos. We have to bash away those predators and toxic vermin that live in the wild and live in our lives, even if they're friends, family, and partners. Because whilst many religious cultures and societal conditioning preach to us to turn the other cheek, love thy neighbor, and love everyone, we have to remember that not everybody is lovable and deserves our love, and that it is a jungle out there. There are a lot of toxic people in the world. Crocodiles, sharks, vultures, They are everywhere in the human world, trying to eat us up emotionally, psychologically, whilst we try to make it safely to shore. I've witnessed my own journey, the outright sabotaging and threatening behavior of some people who were close to me. It shocked me then, and it still shocks me now at my core. Yet the converse is true now as well. I've learned to notice that I'm engaging with many more heart-centered people, hearts with legs, and that warms the cockles of my heart. Those beautiful believing mirrors who lift me up and truly believe in me. It's like nothing I'd ever experienced before, and for that I am truly grateful. The more I value myself and learn how to put in appropriate protection and realistic boundaries in place for myself, the more headspace I have to spot the good and the great people that exist out there, which in turn enables me to help more people be free as well. The beautiful people are hearts on legs. Remember, do not shame you or blame you or mock you or criticize you for sharing or showing emotions and feelings. They accept you, they love you, they cry with you, they hug you, they hold you and truly believe in you. They know it's a passing state and believe so strongly in you that they tell you at every opportunity. Whilst I still continue with my own journey, I also have the honor of helping my clients and students do the same every day. I meet them where they are at, which is at the start of the identification process of the root of their physical and emotional pain. Every single one of my women, my students, and my clients are absolutely amazing, incredible women. And I don't say that lightly. They truly are. Abraham Lincoln said there are 3 types of people in the world: immovables, movables, and movers. The endometriosis women that I choose to work with are movers. They have the most unbelievable strength of spirit that is hard to explain or share in this podcast. To hear the abuse, the emotional upset and distress that they've had to endure is sometimes hard. Yet as they start to recognize their own innate beauty and strength and power, I watch them change like the caterpillar turns into this beautiful butterfly. And that is the greatest honor in my life, to be part of their journey and helping them to be free. I'm only a little bit further up ahead on this pathway, so I understand still and empathize still with them on their journey and wholeheartedly become their believing mirror, helping them, once the condition is in remission, to establish what their life's mission and purpose is to be as well. Because I don't believe that women with endometriosis go through all this pain and suffering for nothing. I believe it's a training for the future. So I'm the happy hippo that helps these beautiful souls soar, to swim to the shore and teach them how to bash away the emotional predators that want to suck at their souls. I notice when one travels around the world and you leave behind the weight of the dysfunctional family, the judgment, the criticisms and pointed remarks and hostility that hung around for decades. It's not until you're away from toxic people do you realize they were even toxic in the first place. So how do you help yourself if you relate to this? Well, firstly, learn to pay gentle, kind attention to your feeling state and who and what triggers them, especially the tears. Tears can be seen as part of a grieving process for the life you've not yet lived and as the watering of the seeds that you have now just started to sow. But equally, if tears are a regular visitor, then pay attention to them. Keep a tear tracker. Record when you cry, who and what made you cry, and what the triggering belief was. Tears of the soul can cause deep impending pain, emotional pain, and you deserve to have the dreams you seek. So start to visualize who you wish to become and the life you wish to lead. This journey may be tough at times, and I always say to my clients, I never said it would be easy, but it's so worth it. If you are struggling with emotions, try to journal and hear what they're trying to say and become a gentle, listening and comforting parent to them. And you might be surprised at the feedback. And of course, become your own believing mirror, as well as seek out as many genuine believing mirrors as you can in your life. You deserve it. To your health.
Thanks for listening to Heal Endometriosis Naturally with Wendy K. Laidlaw, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and rate us. If you're interested in learning more, you can download your top 5 jumpstart tips at healendometriosisnaturally.com and jump on the VIP email list. Remember to keep you number one. The world needs a healthy you.